Hey, aloha guys, Eric West here, HawaiiRealEstate.org, coming to you live from Maui, Hawaii. I'm here today with two survivors of the fire. We're going to do a quick interview, or not so quick, who knows. Jeremy and Alicia Baldwin. They did lose everything in this fire. Thankfully, everyone's okay in your direct family.
We are.
And the purpose of this interview is going to be first and foremost for them to tell their story. And secondly, to talk about some of the gaps that they've experienced since this whole thing has started that can maybe help facilitate, as you know, we are Let's Fill the Gap, to help facilitate things that they might need or other members of the community might need to spread the truth of what's going on here, and also to promote love and aloha in the community, to make sure that things are moving forward in a way that is representative of the community that they come from. Yeah, I believe you're in the same neighborhood as Archie Kalepa, is that right?
I believe so.
I believe so. Okay, so obviously he's sort of they call him the unofficial mayor of Maui, and he is a representative for the Hawaiian people, and that's the particular neighborhood that they're in. If you enjoy content like this, it's very important that you please share this on whatever platform that you have access to. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. That helps us with fighting the mainstream media that is kind of watering down some of the things that are going on here. We just got done with watching the Joe Biden message, and we'll have some reaction. But let's just jump in right into a true survivor's story, and we're so thankful that they're alive. But let's just go ahead and start, Jeremy, if you don't mind, a little bit about who you are, your background, and then go right into your story of what you just experienced.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Jeremy. This is my wife, Alicia. We've lived on Maui for 14 years. On the west side for most of that time. We lived in Kihei for a brief, a year or so. Mm-hmm. We run a landscape business here that's called Eco Blue Landscaping. We try to be environmentally safe, no Roundup, none of that junk, and that comes with its own challenges. It's always a fight trying to keep people employed and keep business going when you're trying to do that, which is, to me, backwards, right? That should be how everybody should be thinking. So we're all in this group, a very environmentally thoughtful bunch of people. We have 4 kids, from a 1.5-year-old to a 22-year-old, and everybody in between. And we all lost everything. We have each other, but we literally, everything we're wearing is loaned to us by the grace of friends and family and just random people. All the food we've eaten, all the hospitality we've been shown, it's all been from our community.
Anything from any of the big organizations that they mentioned today in the speech? Anything from FEMA or Red Cross that you've directly received that you're aware of?
I've never heard from them, or I've never personally seen anyone from any governmental organization at all. I've seen them on the news, but I've never seen one or heard from any of them. So it's all been just the amazing spirit of connectivity that Maui's brought. I mean, all the squabbles and strife between neighbors and groups that just went away with the fire. I mean, it really did, and we're all just kind of ready to do something amazing out of this. But unfortunately, lots of us don't have anything yet to do that with. And us personally, and a lot of people we know, our insurance is just woefully inadequate.
Underinsured, essentially.
Underinsured, and the homes we all bought years ago were already kind of the bottom of the barrel, probably, so to speak, just dilapidated and stuff. And then we've all put just years, like in our house, we put 8 years of love and effort into restoring a 1950 home, and
And the work you did was amazing.
Yeah,
man.
thank you.
And how much love and effort and money and time you put into that is unfathomable, really.
Yeah, thank you. And I
some technical issues here in the war zone, but essentially
literally.
we were talking about if you have pictures or video of the day of this fire, before, during, after, 2 days later, pictures and video on your devices, on your iPhone or your Android, please upload those as soon as possible to archive.org or put them on a hard drive right away. Thank you. Okay. Continue. You saw sparking.
Yeah, and
on
that's
a
really good point that we've been talking about a lot, and a lot of people in the community, is that we hear it on the media a lot, this being called a wildfire, natural occurring almost, kind of, and I'm just telling you right now, that's just absolutely untrue. It was caused by overhead electrical grid, flat out, and anybody that has anything to do with high voltage line work will know that.
And that's what happened. We need to put that into the public record and into the public domain, that the moment that we start to provide reasonable doubt that this was not a natural disaster, then the burden of proof is on the state to prove that it was in order to call this a natural disaster. Because if it's a natural disaster, then they have a law that they passed just last July, just last month, that enables the governor basically to not have to adhere to the normal laws as it pertains to permitting and historic districts and things of that nature. And I've also, through the communications, that the Attorney General of Hawaii has already done some kind of a lawsuit against the state of Hawaii or the governor. I don't know the details of that, but if anyone's listening to that, if you're an attorney or someone that can help us, please let us figure out what that means, and is it real or is it some kind of strategy? All right, continue.
Yeah. So that day we knew there was a fire early on, and we have some friends who are firefighters too, and we were aware of a fire breaking out, and so we were glad the power was out, because obviously that's needed for that not to get out of control. And then we were told that it was all handled. That was 9 in the morning or something.
Yeah, about that.
And there was a release that went out, and it was the handle was fire was 100%.
100% contained. Yeah. So Maui News. So if anyone has a screenshot of that, please provide that, because that happened to me as well. I was called about the fire. I was told it was 100% contained.
Yeah.
I saw it on Maui Now. I called my friends in Lahaina Luna. They actually went back to sleep because they had a long night working. So anyway, screenshots of that would be fantastic. That it was communicated to the residents that it was 100% contained.
Absolutely.
Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, that's true. And there was so then we never had any signal on our phone so no cell service the whole day.
Right.
So
blackout
and just gale force winds, so it was hard to talk to even neighbors, right? Because it's just, you went outside and it was this feeling of you're going to get something on your head.
Getting knocked over.
Yeah, people's roofs were getting ready to come off, and I didn't even know, I don't know if some people did, I didn't even know that there was a chance for that kind of wind. It was kind of shocking. It was
it wasn't in the news.
Wasn't news.
Like that,
we boarded up our houses many times here for
Right.
hurricanes, and usually not much comes out of it. But the big one was something nobody even knew. We were like baffled at the wind. And then the fire, of course, had no idea about that until we started all of a sudden seeing smoke again. And we had heard that the fire department had waited on the original 3-acre fire for 5 hours just to make sure it was contained, even after they said it was contained. And we can confirm that just through personal sources that we know. It was definitely contained. 5 hours they waited. When they eventually went back to the fire station to kind of regroup, literally have lunch finally, all that, within 20 minutes, they were full force called back to a fire that we now know of is the one that really burnt the city down. And so little did we know, 3 o'clock, 3:30, right after they had left, they got called back kind of mysteriously, and they were baffled. Like, where was this fire? And it was in the same area. We've heard different spots, definitely still some grass fire, but like there was a household shed that was on fire that kind of was out of nowhere. It was out of the fire zone, and it was on fire. So that was interesting. And they were kind of like, how'd this thing get on fire? And within short order, it had gone through Lahaina Luna down into the plantation area by the chimney stack there, and I know there's a lot of people that lost their lives down there. A lot more that they're not telling us yet, and that's unconfirmed right now. So I realize they have to go through a lot of steps, but unfortunately there are a lot of people that didn't make it out of that original section, and I think we'll start hearing about that slowly.
By the way, I've had emergency specialists call me from different countries, emergency management people that say that this fire or this aftermath should have been properly documented. You cannot remove cars, you cannot remove bodies. It's a crime scene that needs to be processed. There needs to be testing, environmental, a lot of things. If they've been done, great, let us know. But also, those cars and bodies were moved without any investigation.
Crazy.
And and we're also hearing about things that refrigerators and things that were there that were removed. So there's a lot of tampering that happened. Is it the reports that we're getting? So again, if you have any kind of footage, that's why I just released my video. If you haven't seen it, it's a 4K video, an aerial drone video I just submitted yesterday. I'm going to upload that to archive.org, and I also have 4K video of a GoPro that I took through almost every street in Lahaina, and I'm trying to upload that right now.
Nice.
So it's important that we create a video and photo evidence. So again, go to archive.org and please upload that. So so of the day of the fire, again, was there any by the way, I was at Maui El Dorado, which I find interesting, looking towards the south. I came out of an inspection at 10:30 a.m.
Oh, okay.
and I saw a very large black plume of smoke.
Yeah.
And it literally, I was like, that's a serious fire.
Serious.
It didn't look like a brush fire to me at that moment, because it was a large plume of smoke at 10:30 in the morning.
Wow.
So I'm always confused when people say, well, the wildfire was put out,
Interesting.
and then, but I saw the largest black plume of smoke at 10:30 o'clock.
10:30 a.m.
Right,
Wow.
massive. So
Yeah,
eventually,
that was right after the containment. 9 o'clock containment, 100%.
Right. A massive black plume of smoke, and I came home and said, honey, there's something going on.
Wow.
So I think eventually all of these pieces of the puzzle will get put together.
Yeah.
Thankfully, everyone has got an iPhone or an Android that they documented that.
Yep.
But we definitely need to prove or create a reasonable doubt that it was caused by a fire
Yep.
from a arcing power line,
Yep.
and also to submit that and to save that on a hard drive or put it on archive.org.
True. I had heard that all the fires on Maui started within like a minute or two of each other. The Kula, the upcountry one, Lahaina, which is really interesting. It seems statistically impossible.
Yeah, no,
you know,
I totally agree.
especially for a wildfire. You're not going to get an event that, like there was no lightning strikes. That's the other thing. We had no rain.
Yeah.
You know,
No
there was
rain.
no hurricane condition other than wind.
Right.
There was no lightning, right? So.
There is no lightning on Maui very often
Pretty
anyway,
much, yeah.
right?
Pretty,
I mean,
yeah.
I've
It's,
heard it.
it's almost always electrical cause, you know, and,
Right.
and high voltage. It's spruce poles with overloaded electric. It's a recipe for disaster that unfortunately we've all heard about and we've known about it, and there's been studies done on it, and there's been county and board meetings done on this for 10, 20 years already.
Really?
It's incredible, and we've all known about this, and it's always been like this danger, but our power always goes out in wind anyways, because it's basically fragile, even if they're not shutting it off. So that's kind of been a godsend in a way. But that very nature of that is also why when it doesn't go out and you have a transformer blow and a line that falls down still charged, zapping in grass, grass is so dry here a lot of times. And we know about this. This isn't, they're talking about global warming and all this stuff, and that's a discussion, but it's always dry in Lahaina. It's
Right.
been this way for 14 years. We've gone through countless fires in the brush and structure fires, and we lost
Lahaina
homes.
gets, what, 12 inches of rain a year on average or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Very
it's,
little
it's
amount.
very, very arid. And so none of that was news. You know, none of that was interesting to anybody that lived there. It was like, so what else is going on? And all the wind, fighting a fire in the wind must be absolutely horrendous. But fighting it without water is the thing that's so bizarre.
It's
that-
impossible. So what do you know about that? Do you know, have you,
Yeah.
just from what you heard, or
Yeah.
any personal accounts of people that didn't have access to water?
Yeah, personal accounts. To us, we had water at our house. Us and our neighbors were watering down like our chicken coops and like just our lawn and putting water on trees. I don't know, like 5 p.m. Because we knew there was a fire, big fire. Like talk about a giant fire. I mean, from our house you could see, just like you said, this black plume, and it was, to me, it was striking because I knew from accounts of others that had come through there that it was still miles away in another subdivision or thereabouts. But it was blowing it was miles high, black smoke blowing so fast. You know, normally when something's huge, whale breaches, it looks slow motion. You know, clouds of smoke are going, they're slow motion. This looked like campfire smoke, but you knew it was miles, and it was just, it was just charging, but straight down the hill, not towards us.
Correct.
We
So you
never smelled it.
felt safe,
We
essentially.
kind of did, and we had already been evacuated and had ash landing in our house years ago. 2019 fire was like the one where, if anything, we brought a lot of stuff with us then, animals and like all our like passports and stuff, musical instruments, some of them. This time, it was almost the cry wolf syndrome. We'd been evacuated, we'd seen fire close. And this one we couldn't smell, we just could see it, and it felt like it was going straight to the ocean.
Right.
And we thought the fire department's going to eventually get it done.
Well,
you know?
we also debated evacuating, but we couldn't because the road directly below us is Hanapialani Highway, and the cars weren't moving on that. And we also had a city bus directly in front of our house, which city buses never come down our street. And he was idling outside of our house for
in traffic.
2+ hours.
Yeah.
So you have like gridlock outside
Yeah,
your
we
house.
couldn't go
have
anywhere
left
anyways, even if we
anyways.
wanted to leave
Really?
earlier. So it was like, thankful that fire, it was like, man, it looks scary. You know, it just looks like this ominous monster there. Like, man, maybe we, just for inhalation purposes, maybe we get the kids out of here. So we contemplated that. I brought like my favorite guitar out, you know, just stuff that I'd want if it didn't want it to burn down. We got a ton of other stuff, but we made a good, kind of a better decision earlier. But with the wind, it was so crazy. It's like, we can't go anywhere. All this stuff's just going to get blown out of the back of my truck. Got no camper or anything.
Right.
And we're just sitting there with the kids, like, what are we doing here? So we went back inside, used a propane camp stove to make dinner and hung out there and kind of were stuck basically, and all of our neighbors too. And then what was it, 9:30 maybe?
Yeah.
Dark, 9:30. We had one lone officer.
I don't know if it was an officer because we never actually saw him.
Yeah,
but we
I
could
don't.
hear
That's true.
up above
Somebody
our
on a bullhorn.
house
Heard
saying,
something.
Kind
"Get
of
out."
in a panic, which is unusual to a normal evacuation. Would be like, evacuate now, evacuate the premises. It was like, evacuate now, like yelling and driving fast. Like it was kind of, we just barely heard it, but could tell someone's yelling on a bullhorn.
And this was about 9:30 at night.
yeah, about 9:30 at night.
Wow.
And
so
we
people were in bed already, possibly
Oh, for
sleeping.
sure.
I
Yeah.
was in bed with our
She
baby.
was, yeah,
I'd
yeah.
taken
Our
a
kids were
bath
asleep.
and I
No way.
dozed off and I got jolted awake by hearing something way up in the hill saying, basically, get out immediately.
Yeah.
And we knew this thing was behind us, so it was alarming. It was kind of like, because we couldn't see over other houses and stuff how close it was. Couldn't see flames. Still didn't have ash. It seemed like it was still going straight down instead of to us. But it was at that point, hearing that, it was kind of like, all right, like, let's, we were like run out of there, and but we got out of the house and left all the stuff we originally brought. Unfortunately, we had food and, like I said, instruments and like her wallet and all her stuff.
Now you're in a panic.
Now we're kind of like, and I
Right.
couldn't think all day anyways,
Definitely.
wind, and didn't know what was going on. It's like, okay, well, shoot, let's not hang around here anymore. Let's go and let's like at least get up north so we can then assess what's going on. But still not thinking the city's burning down and all our homes are going to be gone when we get back, right? That was never a thought that,
So before we even left, we made sure to close all of our windows, shut all of the doors.
yeah.
We did what we-
Let our cat out, and try to get. But we didn't bring our cat with us. It wasn't.
Have you seen the cat yet?
No, not yet. And we haven't been able to get back other than.
Yeah. What's your story of accessing your properties thus far?
Yeah, it's been.
Because I know half that neighborhood. This is called the Waikuli neighborhood. I'd
right.
say a third of it is still there,
Yeah,
and
the
two-thirds.
front
Yeah,
two-thirds for
the
sure.
The
gone.
north end is there by the
Yeah.
police station,
Yeah.
just to give you a sense of where it's at. And then about two-thirds is gone, and there's a few homes dotted that
Yeah.
did not get touched, but two-thirds is gone. But it's
right.
right off the Honopilani Highway, just south of the police station.
That's right.
And the fire station. So what have you been? You've not been able to get back to your home
we,
since
we
then?
saw it the day after we drove before there was any kind of barricades and blockades. We drove that way just to see what's going on and like, is our house okay? Get animals, and we started realizing early on that the neighborhood was just like we thought it was. We heard explosions all night long and watched this giant red monster from where we were at the Sheridan Ballroom. And with a bunch of other refugees at that point, we didn't know we were refugees yet, though.
Right.
We're just like, we're just checking out, but
Being safe.
making sure. But it went on for so long, all night long. This red monster with all these explosions that it was the denial. Like what else could it have been other than the Wahikuli neighborhood and Lahaina Luna? I never thought Front Street. I never thought Front Street burned down, no matter what. That was like, how could that have burned down? It's right in the water. Like throw a pump in the water and keep water going, something, right?
Right.
It seems so many ways to have saved that, but apparently all the water was down. So we going back to 1950 concrete home razed right to the ground. I mean, just rubble sticking up, looked like little spires of all the concrete was just flaking off. I mean, it was like a cremation, just absolute incineration. I do a lot of blacksmithing and forging. I use propane and coal, so I'm used to what 2,000 degrees roughly will do to steel, and I forge custom knives and machetes and all kinds of tools, and a lot of that stuff, knife collections and stuff like that. The things were so just bent and twisted up. I mean, very close to melting point, which is in steel, tool steel like that. It's 3,000 degrees, and I've never heard of a structure fire getting that hot without some kind of accelerant. All our propane tanks, I've had plenty of them, and I was like, and I have oxygen acetylene. I was like, dude, I probably blew up our house. But no, all those cylinders did their job. All the baffles and the construction of them, the modern way they're built now, they're meant not to blow up.
They didn't blow up.
Didn't blow up. Not an empty one, half empty, big, small. All of my propane and all of my cylinders and all of our neighbors' cylinders that I could see, with the exception of one that did have a rupture in the side, one down the way a little bit, a older propane tank, but not an explosive, not a giant explosion at all. It's still there. It just had a rupture in it.
Right.
But all the rest of them still totally intact. A lot of them still have the valves on them. They might have vented propane. I don't know. I didn't check that, but none of them blew up. So I was wondering, like, what were all the thousands of explosions? Cars maybe, right? But this was this was, sometimes multiple explosions in every second, almost like boom, 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 all night long. Thousands.
Because you were up all night long.
Up all night long, and everybody else too. I mean, everybody heard this. It's on all kinds of video and audio.
So what's
of
your
this.
theory? Do you know what that
I
could
don't
be?
know. We asked some fire department what they thought, and they thought automobiles. They thought propane tanks, especially older ones. But even to them, I think some of this was baffling. The amount of these explosions. And some it didn't seem like they really knew exactly where they were coming from either, which was interesting. They're out fighting the fire, and even to them, it was always somewhere else, kind of, that it was blowing up. It was just, I don't know, weird. Everybody's really confused.
Isn't it also just weird how the Waiikuli neighborhood caught fire? If you look at the general spread from Lahaina Luna
Amazing.
down Lahaina Luna Road towards Front Street, and then the apartments known as Ho'onanea and Opukea.
Yes.
And then it never gets to Safeway,
Never gets
really, right?
Yeah. It never traverses over there where you thought it would have.
Right,
If
right.
anything.
And then it doesn't really cross the highway, but where Front Street, I don't think it crossed the highway right there,
No.
but yet you have this whole Waiikuli area, which is, of course,
Past all that.
past all
the
that, on
concrete
the
jungle.
other side of the highway.
Yeah.
And you told me earlier that you thought it was the brush fire somehow went around the new construction that's happening up on the bypass.
So that's what a firefighter
That's what-
friend said, that
Okay.
she witnessed the fire abrupt face turn and go up the bypass. And you can see that when you come in. You
It's in
can
grass
see
this tall. It's something that if they had water would have just been psst.
Which
They
they
just
didn't have.
couldn't fight that. It was just that was just the remnant of the fire. Somehow, like she said, we're fighting this fire coming south, coming straight to the ocean all night, and it was like
But it
all
was,
of a sudden it just went up.
but it would
that
still have to
grass.
cross over the bypass.
That's
It
what
would have to cross the bypass,
Yeah.
right?
the
The
bypass got to
is-
be
is-
100 feet or something
right,
if you really measured it out.
brand new asphalt.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
How
concrete
did it?
even.
Correct. Yeah, thank you. How did it get on that side?
No idea.
Because I'll be honest with you, Hunter and I, we rode our dirt bikes on the cane roads basically, and there was a lot of down power lines. We want to go check out and get a status of the fire. We were there at sunset, and I've got video of it. And
On
there's
the 8th.
absolutely no fire. We went as far as we could to get as close to Lahaina as we could, right close to the bypass. I've got
Wow.
video of all that, and none of that is on fire.
Unreal.
And then later on that evening, when we evacuated, we went over there and saw that all those fields that we had just driven through on our dirt bike, just a few
Wow.
hours, were all on fire. Like we would have been,
Oh.
we would have been in the
In the
fire.
middle of that.
So I didn't think about it until you mentioned it. But like, how did it get from where it was in Lahaina town across the bypass to
No.
Waiikuli? Now, it could have been
No
embers that blew it over there,
Well,
or
that's
something
what
like
I've
that.
heard.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying
But
there's
blowing the opposite direction of the wind too, which
Thank
was
you.
really interesting.
Right,
the
yeah.
opposite, literally. I mean, I've never seen wind so. It did shift slightly here and there,
slightly, but
it was
straight towards the ocean.
straight towards the ocean,
Right.
and like there were gusts, but it would go 60 miles an hour, and this like our mango trees were just for so long. I've never seen them bending so hard, and not like waving around, just and just nuking, where you're just kind of like, oh my goodness, like felt like the houses were going to tear apart,
And the wind continued in that same direction the entire,
the
next
entire
day.
time.
Now, it wasn't
In
as
midnight, 2 in the morning, we're all
intense.
watching it, still going the same direction, just whipping straight down.
Right.
So it never did seem like it was going to go, I guess, north-ish, or what do you
and
call
all the
what is
way
it, north?
around. It skirted the new development, which has
Yeah.
a massive gravel area and all kinds
Yeah,
of
so there's all these
equipment.
fire breaks already, way bigger fire break than you could run with a bulldozer. Like you said, the bypass, all the concrete commercial area that didn't burn, all that stuff, and then the new development, which is multiple story wood structures. They're plywood roof still. They're in that phase. They're not even dried in. Those are just you get big embers that are burning down a city. Touch that thing, it's over with, right? There's nothing, even no asphalt shingles yet. That stuff was fine. And then right behind it are homes that are made of concrete and old growth trees that are wet, that are very hard to catch on fire, and all that stuff just came above somehow, came uphill down into there and through that grass. I mean, there's no shrubs or anything, just grass this tall, burnt down all of Waikulia. There's no doubt about it in my mind. That's where that fire came from.
The thing that's interesting is if you're from Lahaina, if you lived here, you know Lahaina is not a windy place, right? It
Yeah.
literally sits in the wind shadow
That's
of
right.
the Kahalavai Mountains or the West Maui Mountains.
Beautiful.
So
yeah.
you get trade winds about the time you get to Ka'anapali and
Yeah.
all the way up to Kapalua, and then not much between
No.
there and Oluwalu's really.
That's right.
Oluwalu's is where things kind of open up a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, and past the tunnel and stuff starts to nuke over there.
Right,
nothing
but from
here.
Laniapoko to Waikuli, that's
Oh.
usually a very in the wind shadow of the West Maui Mountains. So I just find it so interesting that the winds were able to prevail the way that they did.
Yeah.
It's just
Like the
wild.
mountains weren't there almost.
Correct.
Yeah, it was just like, straight,
like this
straight
one-
through the mountain.
It's like someone was holding a blow dryer.
Literally.
Right?
We said that. Yeah, it felt like that too. It was that kind of hot, dry air just forcing its way through there.
I had watched the news the morning of, and it was Guy Hagi, because I was curious. I heard there was this hurricane. I don't watch the news anymore, but I thought, hey, there's something going on. I better know what's going on. And I just remember this little ball, showing this little ball of a hurricane. He said it was a tight, small, powerful hurricane going 500 miles